Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a mystery that most people think is all about UFOs and government secrets. But what if the real cover-up isn't about what's in our skies, but what's inside our own heads?
Yeah, somebody deep on the inside of this topic actually called it the indigestible truth. The idea is that we're not just talking about advanced alien hardware. We're talking about a secret so fundamental that all 195 nations have supposedly been briefed, and every single one of them has stayed silent.
So what is this secret? Why is it so hard for governments to digest? And, maybe more importantly, why might it be so indigestible for us? It turns out, the answer might have very little to do with nuts and bolts technology.
Okay, so get this. This exact question was supposedly asked to, let's just say, non-human intelligences way back in 1997. The story goes that a former head of state pointed to all our progress, the internet, space travel, and basically asked, so what's the holdup? Why not now?
And their reply? Wow, it was stunning. They weren't questioning our tech, they were questioning our development. They basically suggested that a civilization isn't measured by its gadgets, but by its level of consciousness and compassion. The gap between us, it isn't about hardware. It's something way, way deeper. And this idea that we're dealing with a much stranger reality, it keeps popping up. It's too strange. Those were the words of a former CIA official after a 7-hour briefing. And he wasn't talking about propulsion systems. He was talking about paranormal stuff, non-physical interactions. He was hinting that the secret is about reality itself.
And this gets us right to the core of it. This phenomenon, whatever it is, doesn't just challenge our governments or our religions. It takes a sledgehammer to the very foundation of our modern scientific worldview.
You know, for centuries, our science has been based on materialism. The idea that physical stuff, matter, is the only real thing, and our consciousness is just like a weird side effect of brain chemistry. But what if we've had it completely backward this whole time? What if consciousness is the source and the physical world is more like a projection from it?
And look, before you write this off as some fringe idea, you gotta see who said this. That's a quote from Max Planck, the father of quantum theory. This reality-bending idea has been sitting right at the heart of our most advanced physics for more than 100 years.
So if consciousness is fundamental, it leads to this really mind-blowing theory about our own brains. It's called the filter hypothesis, and it suggests the brain doesn't create consciousness any more than a radio creates music. It's just a receiver, tuning into a signal that's already out there.
Let's use an analogy. Imagine universal consciousness is like a massive broadcast signal with infinite channels. Your brain? It's the TV tuner, and it's normally locked onto one single channel, your everyday reality. Things like near-death experiences or deep meditation, they don't create a new reality, they just fiddle with the dial, letting you peek at other channels that were being broadcast the entire time.
And what's wild is that quantum physics kind of backs this up. When you drill down into the building blocks of our world, solid stuff just disappears. All you're left with are waves of probability, just vibrations in a field. It really suggests your physical body is less like a solid rock and more like an avatar in a video game, a projection from some deeper source code.
So, if reality isn't what it seems, then what does that say about you, the person experiencing it all? This is where the mystery stops being about outer space and becomes about inner space, your own sense of self.
Well, it turns out neuroscientists actually have a name for the little storyteller inside your head. They call it the left brain interpreter. And its job 24/7 is to weave a coherent story out of all the chaotic information hitting your senses, just to make it all make sense.
And this little storyteller, it's got a whole bag of tricks. It's constantly looking for stuff that confirms what it already believes. It invents excuses to explain away contradictions. It can even create false memories. And it does all this to maintain the most important story it tells, the illusion that you are a single, stable I who's in charge of everything.
And here's the absolute kicker from the very neuroscientist who discovered this. The storyteller in your head cares more about having a consistent story than it does about the actual truth. It would literally rather be confidently wrong than have to admit it doesn't know.
And this leads us to what is maybe the most indigestible part of this whole truth. If our sense of self is just a story, built by a brain mechanism using ideas it got from culture, what does that really mean? It means the I we spend our whole lives defending is pretty much a social construct.
This just completely flips the idea of disclosure on its head, right? I mean, if the self is an illusion, maybe we've all been looking in the completely wrong direction. Maybe the biggest secret isn't going to be revealed on the White House lawn.
But what's so incredible is that this isn't some brand new scientific idea. Not at all. For thousands of years, mystics have been pointing to this inner reality. The Sufis taught that the entire universe is folded up inside of you.
You hear the exact same echo in different faiths. This famous quote isn't just about finding a place, it's about realizing that the ultimate truth, the ultimate power, it's not something you find out there. It's an internal state you have to unlock.
And the poet Rumi just says it so perfectly. The whole search for answers, for wonder, for truth, it has to eventually turn inward. All the mysteries of the universe are just reflections of the mystery that is our own consciousness. So the takeaway here is that the real disclosure isn't something you wait for. It's not a press conference. It's a personal event. It's the moment of realization that the ego, the personality, the person you think you are, is just an avatar, a character being played by a much, much larger consciousness.
And according to these sources, there is a moment when this all becomes perfectly, completely digestible. At the moment of death, the game ends, the brain's filter is removed, and the ego, that little storyteller, is finally seen for what it always was, a temporary character in a dream.
Which leaves us with his final profound thought. If this life is a kind of mission, designed for us to see past the illusion of our own separate self, and if the ultimate truth is the awakening of the soul, what does that change about how you live your life right now? Maybe the whole point of existence is to wake up from it.